I can feel their eyes on me, watching me like I'm some dangerous animal that's broken out of its cage. And I can feel their eyes on me. The cars at corners stopping and watching, eyes on me. Now, that feeling is very real, but does that feeling align with reality? that's a that's a bit more uncertain. Well, we can go beyond uncertain. It's untrue. The feeling is untrue, but that doesn't make my feeling of it, any less in the moment. I can know it's untrue and tell myself it's untrue, but that doesn't take it away immediately. However, if I were to embrace it, if I were to take it as real, well, then you start heading down a path that is very difficult because what's real is no longer real. Like things I am taking for granted. This is true, but it's not true. This is like a forest of illusions. This, once you start taking things that are untrue for granted, it always leads to madness. And it's not a pretty picture. I can't think of any examples where it worked out for the person. Like there's having a strong belief in oneself to the point of almost delusion can help someone, but the conditions for their life have to be right to match that too, which usually takes a lot of work. However, this is getting off. We're talking about them watching me like an animal. And I don't want to say it makes me angry, but it kind of does because I get like a sense of fear. And it's like, why are you afraid of me? What have I done to make you like? One time I was in the grocery store and I was in the self checkout. I walked up to the counter like thing, and the dude over here like jumped back, and he it made me fucking angry. I was like, what the fuck are you afraid of? And I'm like mad at him, and like, dude, you're like a fucking dog. Like, don't be a fucking animal, dude. Stop this. But I don't think it is the same thing that goes on in a dog's brain. But I did find it interesting that his fear response, like, compelled anger from me. Like, what the fuck are you afraid of? Like, I was mad about it. And in this, I guess it's kind of the same thing. Although that person in the car, I can't even guarantee they were noticing me, right? They could be just talking on their phone and doing whatever. The the self-centered view that they're watching me, um, well, like I mean that's my perspective on it, but that's probably not theirs. But it is real to me. Like internally, the feeling is very real. The sensation, all of it, it's very real. But it has to be denied because it's not so. And if I were to embrace it, chaos would follow. It like I said, it's like going into a forest of illusion because you no longer know what's real and what's not because you're taking all your own internal information. And the more there comes a point where too much of the self can be a bad thing. Humans are social creatures, humans need feedback from others. And if you retreat too deeply into yourself or just aren't around any other people, you end up in this place where it's like walking in a desert. You know how they say if one foot is like an inch longer than the other, you'll end up like 200 or 2,000 miles off course. I forget which. It could be neither. But the point is, you will end up so far off course because over a length of time, you will slowly drift off because one foot or one leg is an inch shorter. So over a long course of walking, you are getting further and further away from like the center path. And this is like what being alone does to people, or retreating too deeply into yourself and only counting on your own perspective. There's no one there to say, did you see that too? Like, you just don't know anymore. So you just start taking it as true. And like I said, the things people perceive versus what's real. And if you're a person that's spending a lot of time alone or fully retreating into yourself, you know, there's probably a degree of unhappiness in your life, I dare say. So it can be sketchy, but that doesn't make it any less real. And it must be denied. Like you have to know it's untrue and tell yourself it's untrue. And you'll still cling to it, you know. It doesn't go away immediately. It's not like something where, oh, it's not true and it just evaporates away. It feels like it's true. And in situations, it will swell and become overwhelming again and undeniable. But it's still not true. And it still has to be denied. And over time, it will start to go away, usually. Some of them I've had difficulty with. That's not the point. It still needs to be denied. It still needs to be acknowledged as not true. And that's my point in talking about this. Because I feel it's something that a lot of people could use in other ways. That, you know, your own internal sense of other people is quite often deeply flawed and more based on like projection than reality. And like what people think of other people often says more about them than it does about the other person. People are very bad at judging others' intents and feelings and motivations, um, or at least such has been my experience. Perhaps I just haven't been around many thoughtful and deep people. Usually, I'm the only one, and it makes me strange. So, what can I say? But, you know, I do feel it's something that rarely is ever talked about, and it's useful information, so I talked about it. Take it for what it's worth, I guess.